All right, what's the future for these publishers? Fortunately or unfortunately, I think more rationalization is coming. Glue Mobile is a nice company. They're putting out good games. They're also losing a lot of money right now, and I don't think that is sustainable for a long time. And you know, they're public now. Bottom line is, I think there'll be an acquisition target, and I hope they are. And less opportunity for small developers. Actually, what that means is that because of the more rationalizations rationalization in the publisher space, there'll be less opportunity for servicing because there'll be less publishers basically. But that just means less servicing work, which is may not be that bad actually. All right, distribution then. I love this cartoony guy. How did you distribute before? Portals, publishers, carriers, porting, developer lucky to see any money. It was, and in some sense, still is pretty painful to distribute through carriers. I hope it's better, to be honest. It's been a while since we've distributed a game through carriers. But at some point, even big publishers had a green light to get a game on on the carrier's deck. They develop the game, port it, take it to the carrier, and the carrier doesn't want to take it. That's just it's a business model that cannot work for a long time, especially given the fact that these publishers were spending a lot of money on the porting side, typically anywhere from 2 to 5 times the amount of it costed to develop the game. And you were lucky if you did see any money. There were some, it was still possible actually to see some money. We did, one thing that was interesting for us was the Family Guy game. We developed the first Family Guy game on cell phones. It was called Stewie 2.0. And without giving specific numbers, for a pretty small percentage of sales, we saw several $100,000 in royalties from that game. So we know it's possible to make money. It just you need a big brand and you need a lot of marketing. And yeah, I wanted to mention this other thing about publishers, which without naming any names, there was almost a scandal where one carrier, if you listed the games on their website by alphabetical order, some publishers' titles came out first, even though they were not in the order. And there was talk about stock exchange, and someone got fired, and you can see it was just a mess. Now, well, you still have portals, publishers, carriers, but you got the app stores now. Everyone and their mother is doing an app store. There's a lot of good intentions there. I don't know that they'll all work. Of course, you got the Apple App Store. I've got some interesting data about that later on. But pretty much everyone that's in the mobile space right now that's selling cell phones is coming out with an app store. And the reason is they're just getting more apps. It's easy to see that, if you get a game through a carrier and with a publisher, the publisher is taking up most of the money, and then the carrier is taking 50%, and all you're left with is peanuts. Whereas if you do the iPhone, for example, the iPhone App Store, you get 70% of the sale price of the game. So, it's an easy math there. All right. Interesting numbers. We've been looking for numbers for a while for the App Store. And you can see that even though, it's seen as a huge success and it is bringing in a lot of money, you do need to be in the top of the categories to make any significant amount of money. We all hear about these guys that made millions on the App Store. We hear of them and we remember them because there's not so many of them. as you can see, if you're even 70th in entertainment, and I don't know the exact number of applications there, but it's more than 70, a lot more. And he's 70th, so that's not bad, and he's only selling 75 units a day. So, you know, at 99 cents, it's not a lot of money. And then on the other end, with his number one overall, that's 13,000 units per day. So yeah, that's a lot of money. And I wish that you get an application there that makes that much money. I wish myself that. iPhone, all right, now, oh, that was an interesting number that came out this morning actually. 2 billion downloads, everyone's pretty aware of that. 30% of that is paid content, so 70% is free. 900 million in developer revenue since mid-2008, so that's a little over a year that Apple has distributed $900 million worth of money to developers. So yeah, there's a lot of money. There's also a lot of applications, but there's a lot of money. What was it I said? 100,000 now, so that's 30 divided by 30,000 apps. So still, you know, might not be a lot of money per app, but some apps are not seeing any downloads either. All right, future. Well, in the short terms, app stores. I mean, you know, it just doesn't make, or actually makes a lot of sense to go to the app stores because you're making a lot more revenue on your game. Doing an iPhone game, the barrier to entry of doing iPhone games or even Android games is, you know, not zero, but it's not even $10,000. So it's pretty easy and common sense to see that you're better off going that route than doing G20 game, spending $100,000 on a game and then getting it ported. If you don't have the technology to do it, it'll cost you $200,000, $300,000, and then the carrier might not take your game, and you have only 14 characters to describe your game in the operator's deck. So simultaneous release. If you do take the App Store route, I would suggest, it's been a pretty, what do you call that, a good recipe in the Java and Brew space of releasing your game on all carriers at once. You get more visibility out of that. I would suggest that the same thing applies to app stores. If you do support multiple app stores, say you support the Android and maybe the Palm Pre and the iPhone, if you release your game at the same time on all platforms, you'll get a lot more visibility. And marketing, I mean, you know, it's not easy doing marketing, it costs a lot of money. Fortunately, there's, you know, now social gaming and the social platforms and that kind of stuff that allows you to advertise your game. One interesting thing also that I learned last week was that you know, not all social platforms are equal, actually. There's a lot of talk about Twitter out there. It's a nice concept. Unfortunately, the 16 to 24-year-olds of the world are not on Twitter. They represent like not even 1% of the people on Twitter, and only 3% of the population is on Twitter. So, you know, it's not that big when you compare it to the other social platforms.